Welcome to Sean's Thoughts. Thank you for joining me today. Actually, I had scheduled this podcast to be recorded on YouTube. And actually, I went into the Livestream app on YouTube and I set up the whole entire thing. I put all the thumbnails, I did all the work. And then when it came time to actually record it, I was unable to record it. The app suddenly wouldn't work anymore. I checked to see whether or not it needed an update. And well, now I'm back here on Rumble. So perhaps, there's a reason for everything. So if you looked on the thumbnail and the title of this video today, I essentially just had to use one of the older videos that I had about being authentically me. And yet, honestly, that's kind of what all of my podcasts are really. They're always about me being authentically me. And I've just been challenged over and over again, perhaps to avoid even sharing this particular podcast today. So if you're watching me, you might see me on YouTube right now, but I'm being ported in from Rumble. And, perhaps the whole reason why that YouTube podcast didn't work the way that I expected it to work is maybe it's because I also needed to be on Rumble right now. And so, yeah, welcome and thank you for joining me today. My name is Shone, and today I'm continuing my adventure. And right now I'm underneath one of my most favorite trees. It's the weeping willow. I really love this style of tree, the way that it provides shade, the way that it does, and creates a interesting place for me to sit here today. So today I'm in Chilliwack and it's very hot. And yeah, that's where I'm at. So today I kind of wanted to discuss, and maybe I'll just talk rather than trying to, land on a certain topic as I was doing with the podcast on YouTube. And I was talking about, or I wanted to talk about, what was happening. Maybe rather than trying to get towards a certain thing that needs to be said, I'll just share with what I'm thinking. See, for a long time, I've been on this journey, and this journey has been trying to essentially find out what the truth of our reality is. And I've come to a lot of interesting understandings about how we co-create our own reality, means that we are a large part of why our reality exists around us. And then often people, when you share that information, when you share your observations of your own reality, as I have done with the people around me, they tell me that they're unable to see, they're unable to understand what I'm talking about or to even see what I'm talking about. And I've come to understand the reason for that perhaps is because our perceptions aren't the same, because our perceptions are defined by our own personal experiences and our personal own realities, meaning that the way that we see things is based on our experiences, our filters, our own traumas that we've endured, our own lives, I guess is the right word. And so therefore, to be able to see what your neighbor sees is almost impossible, because neither of us actually have lived the same lives. And it's not just this life, it's our past lives, perhaps, our past incarnations. And while you may believe yourself that you don't have a past incarnation, perhaps you don't have one. And maybe that's the challenge. But yet, for millions and millions of people out there who have shared their own past life experiences, who have also confirmed their past life experiences through different methods and methodologies, perhaps not everyone's at the same starting point. And yet perhaps we are all going towards the same direction, and we're going together. As Carrie Kay often says, we're walking each other home. And so I often wonder, though, how much of the reality that I see every day is available for other people to see. I was watching a movie recently called The Matrix, and it's the fourth one. It's the one when they essentially relive parts of their experiences when they were in the first Matrix movie. And one of the interesting thing that's on that movie is at a point in time where Neo or Anderson is waking up, he has an opportunity to look in a mirror and he sees the reflection of what everyone else sees. And it's not what we see as the audience. What we see as the audience is Keanu Reeves and looking like Neo, and we see everyone looking like they are, which of course is interesting when you look at the fact that Trinity, who's now Tiffany, she looks like she looks in the game, in the movie. That's how they portray the Matrix as a game. And yet Neo looks like this older man. And it leads me to sometimes wonder whether or not even the people in my own reality, do they see me as how I see myself? And I know that's kind of like getting loopy and maybe woo woo, but it's an honest thought that I have. Oftentimes I've told you and I've shared that I feel that I'm unseen. I've almost been hit by a car sometimes when people, at least in my perspective, are staring right at me as they're driving towards me. And at the last moment, they skid their tires as they suddenly see me. And I've had many different reasons or explanations given to me for that. You know, they could have been in their own mind. You know, I myself have done it sometimes where I was driving, I got distracted by something, and in that last moment, I was able to see someone or something. And so, you know, there are, of course, a lot of different justifications or reasoning for, but often I wonder down to the idea of, do we see each other as we truly are, like perception wise? And even in my Paul Selig books, we often talk about judgment. And Paul Selig is a amazing series. Well, he's an amazing channeler who has channeled now 13 books. I've read the first 12 many times over and over again. And actually, I'll be doing a live stream podcast book club type of deal on the first book called I Am the Word. So if you are looking to perhaps explore Christ consciousness or just overall explore self mastery and perhaps a way to look at the world differently, maybe to open up our collective programming and dismantle it, then definitely check over that on my channel. Maybe by the time you actually watch this particular podcast, that will already be up. However, back to what I was saying, do we look at the world the same? And I've come to understand that no, we don't. See, it's easy enough to look at how we view the same circumstance. Someone who has perhaps like a brand new pair of shoes and someone else who has a weathered pair of shoes, such as mine. Actually, I'll share them with you. These are my broken shoes. Now, if we step in a pile of mud, or we step upon like even the Canadian goose's poop that's sometimes all over parks, we will have a different reaction to how we even view that situation. I might be with my dirty shoes looking at the fact that there's amazing birds that were eating and feeding and hanging out with all their young ducklings, or whatever we call the babies. And yet the person with the brand new pair of shoes might be looking at it as, well, from a point of anger because their shoes are brand new. So that's just a small example of how we can look at the exact same situation based on our own personal situations and view it differently. The one person, such as myself, might be in fascination with the birds that I'm watching versus the other person will be furious because their new shoes are dirty. And there's no judgment here from either of the two perspectives. And of course, the other multitude of perspectives that exist beyond that, there's no judgment. And perhaps that's what we're truly moving into. See, my original idea of creating a podcast today was to talk about, you know, moving consciously into true reality and reconnecting with source, realigning with the true versions of who we are. And for everyone, I think that that's a different journey because we're all different. We're created differently. And as I understand it, perhaps, maybe that was the point. Maybe that God, the source of all, wanted to have a different experience. And through separation, perhaps, and, you know, although we have perhaps went to the far side of separation through forces of evil, Lucifer and demonic beings and secret societies and all this lovely stuff, my nose is itching again. I'm wondering if I'm kind of falling off the rails, but perhaps that was the whole reason. However, as I understand it now, we are moving into more of an alignment with our true self. And that's something that I understand, or I'd come to learn from the Paul Selig books, that there is a version of ourselves called the true self, the Christed self, the higher self, the divine self, however it is we wish to label it. But yet it's the version of ourselves that's in alignment with source, that we no longer require polarity in order to learn our lessons, that we can perhaps learn our lessons from the experiences that we're experiencing and not necessarily have to step in the bird poop in order to understand the value of the experience that we're in. I must admit, today is a very challenging day. As I'd mentioned, I tried to do this podcast, and at first the YouTube app wouldn't work. And then finally, when I decided to do the podcast and I did it offline, my nose began to itch and I began to get irritated. The heat got hotter. So I moved locations and all of the no parking signs were coming up and the road was dusty and the heat was getting hotter. And I ended up cutting myself on my leg. So it's been challenging to do what I'm doing, and yet I still continue to move forward because I know, I believe, I have faith that we are moving into a better world where perhaps love will reign supreme, as I've talked about before. And those forces that would stop me and trigger me and limit me are going to be removed from our reality, or they can move into alignment with their own higher versions of themselves. Either way, I truly do believe that the life that I would prefer to live is right here, right now. And I'm wondering, simply wondering, pondering the idea of when will it be revealed so that I can keep on keeping on and start to live that life that I have been believing, dreaming, creating, keeping in mind that we all co-create our realities together. The world that we see outside, whether it's famine or war or even poverty, homelessness, that those are all a part perhaps of our co-creative aspect, what we see or what we believe to be common. And a lot of people believe that when you have no money, then life is over, that life somehow requires money. But yet on this experience that I've been experiencing, I have come to realize that money is only one part of the experience. Trusting in God and source and, trusting that inner guidance and going with the gut intuition, the wisdom that comes from God is by far more powerful and more important. And so that's truly what I have been experiencing for the last almost 4 weeks now, as I had never, ever believed that it would be possible that I could live outside within the wilderness alone, and not necessarily alone as in with no one, because I had the skunks, the bears. Actually, I saw a bear the other day when I was driving, and it was only like 3 meters away from my car, and it was a magnificent, beautiful animal, and I could tell its loving nature by just looking at it. I've experienced hawks and eagles and pigeons and crows and ravens and mice and so many different amazing creatures, dogs as well. I recently had the opportunity to spend some time with these two amazing dogs, very loving creatures. And yet, through this whole thing, I've come to realize that sovereignty is being able to do as we are guided to do and trust and to experience life without fear, because fear is what they use to control us, that they use to limit us. And as we go through with my podcast and future podcasts to come, I'm creating a mentorship program where we are going to discuss all those limiting factors that society used to program us. See, they even use the sirens that you're hearing right behind me now. I don't know if you're able to hear it, but there are ambulance sirens behind me. And even the frequency and the color is used to create and promote fear. So the more and more that we learn what creates the fear, we can therefore let it go. And we can move to a place where we are open and receptive to love and to connection and to higher frequencies. And we can let go of those traumas and those expectations of what the world should be and receive what the world is. And while we may move on for the next little while in a similar system, because God wants, as I understand it, more of its creations, of his creations, her creations, however you want to label it, the source of everything wants more of us before we are all one. We are all a part of God. That's what Jesus, as my opinion, tried to explain, that we are all of God's creation. We are all of God, even Jesus. And while we all may have different aptitudes and experiences and desires and, well, traumas, together we can all work as one within harmony and bring ourselves together to create a new concept of what our world could be and is already is. I do believe that New Earth exists. It exists all around us already. And it's simply a matter of us being able to collectively perceive the same reality. And that's what I was saying is, do people see me as I see myself? And sometimes I wonder, and I believe no. Because, for instance, we all smell things differently, for example. So, for instance, when I smell fabric softeners or I smell like laundry detergent on people, it affects me. I have to look away because a lot of these clothes that people put are so strong, and I'm repelled by them. I was sitting in Starbucks today and a very beautiful woman walked in, but yet her clothes smelled of laundry detergent. For her, that smells normal. For me, that's repulsive. Not her, but the smell. And so my ability to even take her in as she appears to be a beautiful woman, I'm challenged because of the smell. I have to move my head away so the smell is a little bit less. And that goes back into me. I choose not to use all of these strong Febreze crap and all these laundry detergents. And even my deodorant has less perfume in it, or no perfume at all, actually. And so, therefore, I will smell a different way. So, how people perceive me just on the fact of smell is going to be different. And therefore, if my body smell, and I don't say odor because, that word BO is another word has a negative connotation to it. But if how I smell affects someone to be able to look into my eyes and see me for the human, for the Homo sapien that I am, that affects their perception of me. And so, see, we all truly do see different versions of ourselves. Someone might be dirty, for example, because they had a hard day at work, or they work as an auto mechanic, or they worked underneath the sun and they sweated away all day. And therefore, their own family, when they come home, will see them differently just simply because of how they smell. And so, I truly do believe that we do see each other differently, but do we actually see each other differently? Is it like that movie, The Matrix, where someone will look at me and they might see a dirty shirt, or they might see stains or scars, for example, on my body? Will they see my hair as being scraggy and dirty, or will they see the beautiful brownness that I see with a little bit of gray that, by the way, is coming out because we're all getting younger? Or at least for those people who are doing the work to release the trauma, meaning they're healing and they're opening themselves up to the possibilities, such as all of the beautiful possibilities that I portrayed in my podcast possibility, or my possibilities podcast that I have here on YouTube and on Rumble. I will put it at the end of this video, perhaps, so that you can come and check that out. But as we explore the possibilities of what could be, is this going to open us up to being able to collectively see what truly is? And, for all those beings, whether they're AIs, whether deep state agents, operatives, you know, negative forces, negative energies, demons, whatever you want to call it. I wish you farewell. You have the opportunity right now to perhaps come over to the light side, come over to God's side, come over to the side of love, compassion, and reason. However, if you don't want to, as I said, farewell, because we are moving into a world that is united under source, the God of all, or God, the source of all, however we want to play with those words. And so, while I didn't expect to live stream on Rumble, I thanked the two people that I can see had come and watch this. And I thank the millions of people that will come and watch this. And I invite all of you, if you want a better life, if you want a better getting up in the morning and going to sleep at night, if you want to see a better world, if you want to be connected by people that are, composed of, connected with love, harmony, compassion, joy, enthusiasm, if you want to live in a world where people no longer have reasons to complain because we have moved ourselves beyond all of those reasons. We have learned that the stories that we tell ourselves about all the fallacies, all of the hardships, we've let those go and therefore no longer create them. If you want to be in a world that is in or described by the podcast that I put up called I Foresee, if those things appeal to you, first, listen to them 10 times each and let YouTube know. Actually, I highly recommend, I know I have 700 videos, but try to find the ones that resonate with you. Go into the playlists or the podcasts, watch the videos on repeat, go to sleep and listen to, for instance, the I Foresee podcast series and just put it on repeat. Listen to it while you're sleeping because it has some major vibrations that are definitely going to help and contribute to that. But if you want that, the first step is to join this community that I am forging through the flames and fires and trials and challenges that we've all personally experienced. But it's time to let go of all that stuff. It's time to let go of the stories that we tell ourselves about why life can't be the way that we want it to be. Why we have learned to justify and to accept and to capitulate to those forces that constantly and continually try to stop me. Like, it's not a coincidence that YouTube's app, only one part of the app, the live stream part, wouldn't work. And maybe it's because I was meant to come here and talk to you on Rumble as well. Maybe I was meant to, remove some of the attention that's being placed on the Republican Party in America and shift it over to God, to Source. Maybe that's why. Maybe it was time to get back here on Rumble. Rumble is an amazing app. And the app that I'm using right now, because it's essentially live streaming to YouTube, and from YouTube, it'll live stream over to Apple and Spotify and Podbean and all this other stuff. Maybe that was the reason why all this happened. Maybe it's just you right now, the one who's actually watching me right now. Maybe you were the one that I was supposed to connect with. But regardless of who and what and why, I highly recommend get over to Patreon. You can find the links in all of my, or a lot of my videos. If you're watching on YouTube, you can find the link in YouTube. But get over and join the community because, quite honestly, I keep calling for people to join. You can join for free. You can do what you can, support me in any of the one of the ways that you want. You can comment, you can like, you can subscribe. You can do whatever it is that you want to do, that you are comfortable and guided to. But only when we take action are we going to change anything. So only when you take action will you change your life, because nothing out there is going to change. One of the greatest lies that they ever taught us is that someone outside of us was going to save us. Whether it's a prime minister, a president, an organization, a club, a group, parental figures, your hero on TV, any one of the Avengers, nobody. It's only us. We save ourselves. And so you can join a group and collectively come together to help and contribute and ripple your love and your compassion, but only you're going to do it. And so whether or not you can join Patreon for $1, $11, or if you know you have the resources and you really want to make a difference, I have an option for $11,000 and I have a lot of different things and ideas for that. But only you can do it. And even if you can't afford money, such as I couldn't afford money right now, although I have in the past given people hundreds of dollars on YouTube through all of their financial programs, you can still join Patreon for free. You can subscribe on Rumble for free. You can subscribe on YouTube for free. And yes, I'm a little more loud when I'm talking right now because for the life of me, I can't figure out why, unless it's simply that there is a digital block between me and you. And I trust that there isn't. I trust that people will receive what I have to say, the love that I want to share, not just sexually, not just intimately. I mean the love, the connection, the harmony, the compassion, I had a little bug that wouldn't get off my arm, holding on for dear life. Anyways, thank you so much for sharing your time and attention with me. I truly hope that all those who hear this message will hear, but more importantly, perhaps when you hear me next time, things are going to be considerably different, as I trust they will be. So thank you so much. If you are interested in any type of what I've talked about, as I said, come over on YouTube. I have a post on there that's talking about a potential mentorship or community, as well as you can come over and share your attention with all of my photography and videography on all the stuff that I do have on both here, Rumble, YouTube, and anywhere else that you find Shone Peterson. So thank you so much for sharing your time and attention with me. And I look forward to sharing much more. And as most importantly, self-reflection is often found by, after listening to what you've heard, commenting, asking questions, reflecting, sharing, most importantly, because as the Care Bear said, sharing is caring, and I'm definitely here to share. Have a wonderful day, and thank you so much. And thank you to Rumble for being and having this app for me to use when YouTube wasn't able to. Have a great day.